Okay, this time we're back in 1968. I've just finished my second tour on Canberra's on 16 Squadron at Laarbruch. And one of the perks at the end of your tour was what was called an extended Southern Ranger.
Okay.
Which meant landing away to Nairobi, in fact, in Kenya. It was about a 5-day transit because we couldn't cruise at high maximum, but we couldn't refuel. So essentially what you did was you landed in Cyprus, you landed in Bahrain, you landed in Masirah, you landed at Djibouti, which is a French air base, and then you went to Nairobi, Eastleigh, I think the air base was called, and did the same on the way back. The problem was, of course, that if for any reason there was an unserviceability, you had to stop at the point of furthest progress within inside the 7 days. In other words, you couldn't extend the time. Right? So you had to be no longer than that. Okay, so the morning, this was I think around about October in '68, and the day I was going to depart, the weather was absolutely rubbish. It was right on the deck in Germany. I got a cold coming. I could feel my throat a bit sore, and I thought, well, I'm gonna go because you don't have a chance of this. And so I had a pack of cough sweets. I mean, this is crazy because if your ears block in the air, you're in trouble. But anyway, I went presenting myself, my navigator Dudley Brown, and a guy called Jock Adams, another navigator. He came along as a spare, spare seat. So we had to wait till lunchtime before the weather got okay. It was flyable. I think the nearest diversions were something like Lossiemouth and Lucas, so we had a fair way to go to divert if we got airborne. But we got airborne and cleared down across France, sort of about 40,000 feet. Going down across Italy, we were in contact with them on VHF, but the VHF started making a lot of noise, a lot of howling. You couldn't transmit. But we still had UHF, so and that's the other problem. They had a tip tank which wasn't working. So the fuel one tip tank wasn't feeding off, and the wind was getting heavy. So we diverted into Malta. And the ground crew there, good. They fixed it, no problem. And the sun was just about going down by the time we got airborne from Malta, and unfortunately by then there was a strong crosswind on the runway. I think the Canberra had a 25 knot crosswind limit. It was definitely exceeding that. But during my a blind eye to the rules, I ran up the aircraft at 45 degrees, pointing 45 degrees to runway direction. Got the engines going full power, so there's no surge problem. Let the brakes off, booted the rudder around, put the port brake on, and went down the runway. I mean, if you had an engine failure, you're in trouble in Malta because there's walls and stones and everywhere. But I got airborne, and then I got up again to about 40,000 feet, and we hit a tremendous headwind, which is quite unusual for the Med. And then we had the forward bomb tank stopped feeding fuel. So the aircraft really was heavy. We couldn't go into Akrotiri, the main base, because they were doing the runway. So we landed in Nicosia, spent about half an hour in the radar pattern burning off fuel in the forward tank on the gravity feed. So we got the fuel back to within limits, landed, told the aircrew, the ground crew the problems, and then got transport, not to the mess, because there was some of the mess balls on, so we didn't get accommodation there, out to some sort of Faulty Towers hotel, about 1 o'clock. Before we got to bed. We had to be up at 5. So got up at 5, had the proverbial Faulty Towers, waiter on, had to shout for transport. It eventually came, got the aircraft, and the ground crew said, all fixed, sir. Can't find a problem with the VHF. And but the fuel forward bomb tank pump's been fixed, and your tip tank's okay. So got strapped in. And as we started up, crew chief stuck his head in the door. He said, "Shut down, sir." He said, "There's a hydraulic leak." All right. So got the aircraft, and the guys they're tremendous. They beavered like crazy because the other problem was we had to have diplomatic clearance to fly through Turkey, which expired, I think, at 1 o'clock. If you weren't in there by 1 o'clock, you couldn't go. And I mean, obviously, our man in Ankara, the British, diplomatic service, they had an air attaché. You couldn't get hold of him. So anyway, we got airborne, and we got into Turkish airspace, not at our cruising level. I mean, there were no airways. There was no problem in that sense. Beautiful day. So when Turkish air traffic said, where is your position, what your height? We went, "Sir, you are unreadable." And got to height, Flew around, saw Mount Ararat in the distance, and landed at Bahrain. I was running a little bit late for this time.
Okay.
So by the time we get turned around at Bahrain, it's dark. Now, for one thing, I hadn't been cleared to do a night landing at Masirah. But no, doesn't matter. I think we were marshaled out against the stream of Hercs that were coming the other way, so that was another problem.
Yeah.
We got airborne, and Dudley and the nav said, okay, he said, we'll save a little bit of time, we won't go via Sharjah, we'll go straight across the desert. Okay. I mean, okay. I think the Saudi Air Force in those days was probably non-existent. Yeah. The only thing you could see was the oil well flares. Yeah. Okay. So we're cruising along at about 40,000 feet, and oh yeah, we better give Masirah a call. So I get on the UHF and call out Masirah, no answer. And then a polite cough from Dudley now, he says, he said, yeah, we took off for 3 hours late, and I don't think Masirah will have received that signal yet. Right. And they're probably shut. So we're not quite sure we've passed the point of no return. Yeah. So we turn around and head back towards Masirah, and then very faintly on the radio is Mike Alpha, what his call sign was, you're clear into Masirah, weather or whatever. Okay. Oh great. So some guy in Masirah air traffic had figured out we were running late and opened up air traffic. At the time he expected us to call. Okay. Was that brilliant? Yeah. Oh yeah. So we turned around again, and of course we're now flying as high as we can. We're not short of fuel, but it's getting a bit on the tight side. Anyway, gin clear to see Masirah miles ahead, but we're up there at about a temperature of about minus 50. Masirah is in the southwest monsoon period, clear but very moist air. Right. So when we suddenly arrive on the circuit, the whole of the inside of the cockpit mists over because it's freezing. Yeah. Right. So the spare nav, Dudley, Jog Adam comes forward, and he's wiping the windscreen so I can see to land. And eventually I put it down on the deck, badonk. Good landing, it was okay. Yeah. Anyway, we get to bed. Next morning, beautifully clear. The aircraft's fully serviceable. Everyone's ready to go, but my ears weren't clear. Right? Now, the other two guys were not happy about this because Masirah is basically a runway surrounded by sand, more and sand, and there's absolutely nothing to do. Right. So I'm sitting there chewing these cough sweets, and I go, and eventually my ears will clear, so I can do a no-notice exercise and go, they'll clear. So, okay, we get airborne, and again climb up to some quite high level, and we can see, I think one of the last outposts of Empire was a place called Salalah, a little airfield on the southern Arabian coast. Okay. And we're on our way to Djibouti, which is on the African side of the Red Sea. Yeah. Okay. So I thought, I wonder if my ears are still clear. I know what I'll do. I'll get this little bottle of ear clearer fluid out of my pocket. Okay. And I'll just take my mask off and do a quick squirt. Well, this thing's pressurized to sea level. So when it was squirt, I get my lungs flooded with this stuff, and the aircraft is wobbling all over the place because we're at a height where the stalling speed, the Mach crit speed, the maximum speed you go, almost coincide. The two speed are all together, so it's very sensitive. Anyway, get my mask back on, get control of the aircraft, and call up Djibouti. And there's this howl on the VHF again. They don't have UHF, but anyway, we're gin clear. Right. Managed to get down, land, get turned around, take off to Nairobi. Yeah. Unfortunately, when we go off to Nairobi, there is 88's cloud, and I can't remember where the diversion was, but it was somewhere a fair way away. And I thought, what are we going to do? Because we couldn't get the VHF, couldn't get the UHF. So I thought, okay, it was an RAF base quite recently. I'll try the speechless procedure, which is where you do a series of dots on the transmit button. So you're sending out a carrier wave on the radio. And when air traffic goes, oh, they should come up with speechless aircraft, adopt the call sign, speechless 1. And you 1 or no or whatever. Okay. Anyway, somebody went, okay, got you. Are you, whatever the call sign was? Yes. Okay. Commence the descent down to 4 or 5, well, I can't remember what height it was. So we launch off down and go through cloud, forget, of course, at this point, that Nairobi is effectively 5,000 feet high. Right. We're still on the standard upper pressure setting of 1013. I can't remember what Nairobi pressure setting was, but we come out of the cloud. in a high rate of descent with the ground about 1,500 feet beneath us.
Okay.
So anyway, we land there and I go to bed. I'm feeling pretty exhausted by this time, okay? Next morning, I thought, no, the two other guys said, well, we're going around Nairobi. I said, okay, well, have a good time. I'm going to stay in bed.
Right.
So I'm in quite a deep sleep when one of the staff comes and says that the crew chief would like to see you, sir, down at the aircraft. So I get some transport, go down to the aircraft, and you can see why. The aircraft's on a concrete pan, which is concave. They filled the fuel up obviously too far. This is overflowing, so the aircraft is up to its axles in after fuel. Right. And the chief said, I'm terribly sorry, sir, but it's the heat has expanded the fuel. And I'm thinking, what effect does after had on the properties of rubber? I don't know. And then I'm aware of the fact that the crew chief is always also hovering at my side, a bit like the soothsayer in Julius Caesar, Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, beware the eyes of March. Okay? Right. And the effect of the problem was that the B.i.8 Canberra had 3 starter cartridges in a nacelle in each engine. Right? Now, normally en route, going to RAF bases, you would be supplied by the base. Okay? So you always had 3 cartridges in each engine. Well, somewhere along the route, they've been using them. Right. Okay? So now, I think we had 2 cartridges in one and 3 cartridges in another. Yeah. Okay? So we could get airborne to Djibouti, and we could probably get airborne from Djibouti. But we had to make sure they all fired, because if they didn't fire, that was it. Now this is the problem. I thought, well, can we get air cartridges flown in here? No, there's no RAF transport coming in until another 10 days. And the flight commander in Germany didn't take prisoners, And I mean, to say, oh, I can't get out of Nairobi, a beautiful place for 2 weeks, he wouldn't believe you. Okay? You couldn't fly them out by, I think they had comets and civil aircraft, but it's basically, cartridges are dangerous air cargo, so they can't come by civil aircraft. So anyway, we had, so we got airborne the next morning, and I say the runway is about 5,000 feet high, we're full of fuel, and we thought, well, we want to get as much space as possible, so we taxied right to the end of the runway and turned round. At the end of the runway, just beyond the tarmac, there's about a 15-foot wire. It wasn't a wire, I think it was like a mesh barrier. Anyway, locals hanging onto this, obviously you'd seen the aircraft getting off. Well, I don't know how many jets went off there. I mean, turboprops and things like that, okay, but you get full blast of even engine in your face about 20 feet away, you're probably going to get blown off. Never found out. Anyway. So we climb up, we get to Djibouti, and I think we've now got 1 cartridge in the port engine and 2 in the starboard, which is good, because if the port engine didn't start up, you could still take the spare one out the unstarted engine on the starboard side. Okay? And I thought, well, Djibouti is probably a good place to get stuck, because if you think about it, if we have to contact somebody or other, we've got to have to do it through French air traffic, who'll have to probably go to something like Paris, we'll then have to get hold of the British Embassy, we'll then have to get hold of the British Embassy come RAF headquarters in London, to RAF Germany, to the squadron headquarters, to our boss. Okay? So I'm probably about as contactable as David Livingstone was about 100 years before. However, to cut a long story short, we got the engine going. So that so that was the other thing. Dudley regained brownie points, because when air traffic at Djibouti said your crew descend to 2,500 feet, we're in cloud. Dudley said, I wouldn't do that yet. He said, there's a 6,500 foot mountain between us and there. Right. So we got back to Djibouti, and that was okay. And then we landed at, I think we got round to Cyprus, and then we were stuck there for a week because the weather in Germany was rubbish. So we had a week's off.
Jolly good time. Very good.
But I mean, I think it's one of these stories where it's like, I think I've got an article in Air Cruise and that, and it's called Pressonitis. When do you recognise you shouldn't do it anymore? I mean, things like the fuel tank, tip tank not feeding, the Bombay fuel pump not working, the hydraulic leak, the radio they found out was a dry joint. It was a joint was basically okay when it was normal temperature, but when it got cold, it pulled apart. That's all kind of par for the course. I mean, I think the stupidest thing was probably trying to get airborne from Malta with a strong crosswind. Because if you have an engine failure there, you're wiped out. The other one was bombing down into, cutting across the desert at night.
Yeah.
Because if we hadn't got hold of Masirah, we're either going to have to punch out over the desert,
Right.
the Rub al Khalali or something, which is the dry area,
which you don't want to do.
or go into the sea with the sharks.
Right.
Okay, so there's a number of points to learn from that. Sorry.
Very good.